Welcome everyone. We're gonna do another roast along with you all. We started working with this coffee, I don't know, probably like around 6 months ago. First got the first couple bags of this coffee. This is a different lot of this coffee, but it's a very similar quality of cup. I'm getting close to kind of getting the final profile for this coffee down. And so this will be the third roast of this coffee as far as developing it for production profile, or developing the production profile for this coffee. So that's what we're gonna do today. This is the Colombia Manos Juntas micro mill anaerobic natural. So it's a pretty neat coffee. Colombia hasn't done a lot of naturals. It's kind of a new process for Colombia. And from listening to the experts in the webinar, they talked about how it's very challenging to do naturals in Colombia because of the moisture and the humidity. The environment isn't really great for naturals, and so it's very challenging for them to do naturals, and they're quite expensive because of the amount of work that they have to put in to get these naturals to the quality that they expect. And so this is just an exciting project. It's a ban export project, I know, that Cafe Imports, who we partner with to source our greens, has been working with ban export to basically help develop this this coffee in this project. So I'm really excited to get this second kind of lot of this coffee, which we got more bags of it, and have a little bit more coffee to kind of play with, and just to kind of expand my understanding of this green. So basically, up till now, I've done 2 different roasts with this green. So I'm really trying to build on the 2 profiles I've already done. I've had it warming up, so we're pretty much good to go. I've already built my plan. We're gonna do a 500 gram charge, which is the 500 gram roaster, full charge on this roaster of this coffee. But I wanna tell you all a little bit about what I'm doing with my plan and why I'm using this very specific plan. So in a weird way, you're gonna get 3 profiles out of this video, even though it's gonna be about 1 profile. I'm taking the 2 that I've already worked on, and I'm kind of combining them to create this 3rd profile. Okay, that's where we're at. So some of the things are gonna be standardized. So I'm gonna use a 385 charge, I'm gonna use low air and no fuel. I'm gonna do a short soak on this, this roast. So basically, the first roast I did, we're gonna use the same charge, the same airflow, gas setting and soak will be a little different for the first initial input, but other than that, that charge airflow will be the same on all pros. So that's simple. But for that first one I did, it ended up with a 435 dry phase, or the first phase of the roast was 435. The second phase of the roast was 520. So first phase 435, second phase 520, or 955 to first crack. That was the first profile. And then I did 150 of development. 150 of development to what I would call a light roast level of this coffee. So that was the first profile. Okay, now the second profile I did, I just wanted to expand out the time in the dry, and then actually shorten the time in the mid, and then stick to a pretty similar development phase. So I went with a 6-minute dry phase, just trying to expand that out, a little more gentle, a little more low and slow. Then I went with a 420 mid phase, which then would take me to 1020 first. Then I did a 1:40 development. So because I spent more time in dry, and I think overall more time, overall more time, not by much, only like 25 seconds, I just shortened up the development by 10 seconds. So instead of a 1:50 development, I did a 1:40 development. But I discharged them within 2 degrees of each other. So the roast level was pretty close, with the first one being 2 degrees lighter than the second one. So then I let those rest, and then I cupped those coffees. So if I was to give you a really quick description of the 2 and how they were different, they both were good. I liked them both. I think they would both be acceptable production roasts to serve to customers. They both had a lot of qualities and no noticeable lacks or what I might call roast errors in the cup. So, but I think I can get a better cup out of this. That's what I'm working towards. Okay, so the first cup had a very distinctly citrus note. Lots of different ones, but mostly like orange and stuff like that. It also was very clean. For natural coffee, it was about as clean as I've ever tasted it. Very clean. It also had a nice amount of tart acidity. It was kind of tart. The other one, now the second roast, in comparison, it was more round, soft mouthfeel. Very different. And it was red fruit forward. It's just kind of complex red fruits. It had a mild milk chocolate note. So the other one was like citrus and fruity and tart. And then the second one was a little bit more rounded, a little softer, much more red fruit. And then it had a little bit of chocolate that kind of just showed its milk chocolate. Delicate, sweet chocolate that kind of came about. So very distinctly different cups. Then as they kind of cooled, then I kind of summarized them with the things I wanted, the things I didn't. So the first one is clean and sweet. Love that about it, you know what I mean? But its body was less. It had less body and it had less complexity, the first one. The second one had this lingering, complex aftertaste. Very cool, very neat, a lot of complexity. This long, lingering aftertaste, and it had that body and that roundness and a little bit more of the red fruit that I liked. But it was slightly dry. There was a little bit of dryness in the finish on the second one, where the first one wasn't dry at all. It was clean and tart, mildly juicy, I would say. So there was parts of both that I really liked. So when I dug deep into the profile, I realized they were very different, you know, in the phases. You know, other than the last phase was within 10 seconds and 2 degrees, but everything else is pretty fair difference. So what I kind of drilled into to kind of grab is, I like the first phase in the second roast, and I think that's what's creating that roundness and that complexity and the nice body. You know what I mean? Somewhat, part of that. So we're gonna go with more time in the first phase. The first roast was 435, the second roast was 6. So we're gonna go to closer to the second roast, but we're not gonna take one side. We're gonna kind of split the difference a little bit. So I'm gonna go with 530 green to yellow transition, or the first phase of the roast as 530. So quite a bit longer than the first one, maybe a little less than a minute, but 30 seconds shorter than the second one. Okay, that's my first adjustment. Then, when it comes to the mid phase, I really liked the clean, sweet niceness of the first cup. I really felt like that had something to do with it, but also that finish. The dry finish in the second cup, for me, was that shorter mid phase. You know what I mean? I don't think the 10 seconds of development would make that cup drier or juicier in just 10 seconds of development. I think that minute difference in mid phase was where that really nice, clean, sweet, not dry finish came to be. So we're gonna use the mid phase, or something close to the mid phase of the first roast. So the first roast was 520, the second roast was 420, so we're gonna go for a 5-minute mid. So 530 dry, or dry phase, a 5-minute mid, and then we're just gonna split the difference of development. So on one we did 150, on one we did 140, we're just gonna go with 145. But I'm looking for the lighter roast level. So like I said, the second one was 2 degrees darker. I wanna go to the roast level of the first one, or 2 degrees lighter than that. Like, I don't think roast level is an issue with this cup at all. I would actually prefer a lighter roast level. But this natural, it kind of takes off a little bit right around crack, even if you just kill the fuel. So I'm gonna try and mitigate that by using a little lower fuel in the mid phase, rolling into first. So there's a little less momentum when we hit crack. But I'm not sure that I'm gonna be able to do that and still keep the profile moving forward in the fashion that I want. So I'm okay with final drop temp as the same as the first one. 418, 419 is the goal. So the overall time is 1220 to roughly 418. That's my goal. So at this point, we can basically just turn the machine off. I have my charge ready, and we'll get into it. 385 charge, low air, 0 fuel. At 1 minute, 2 kPa gas. Cross our fingers on that. Hopefully that'll work. That would hopefully drive us to a 530 green to yellow transition. But at 5 minutes, I have in my notes that I'm going to increase my airflow to medium, and I'm going to lower my gas to 1.4. So I'm going to take a 1/6 of a kp off. We're going to see how that goes. We'll call it dry end where it happens, hopefully 530. And then basically the next markers I have is at 7, I have a question mark, because that's basically mid phase, and I might increase or lower the fuel then to just be able to hit my markers in that phase. I'm going to kind of do an evaluation at that point. Roughly the first 2 profiles hit crack around 404 on the PID. So I have that as a marker, as something to kind of gauge how fast I'm moving through mid. Then my next marker is at 10, which is around 30 seconds before first crack. I'm going to go to my high airflow. High airflow at 10, or when I hear an outlier, hopefully we're going to hear crack around 10:30, and then we're just going to do minute 45 development, hopefully to 418 for our final discharge temp on PID. At 1 minute of development, though, I will cut my gas to half a kPa. As I have too much gas, this coffee tends to take off in the development, so I might even do it a little earlier, or I might just kill the gas and not even do half a kPa. That last minute, we might run a momentum. Okay, I'm using medium-high air right now for warm-up, cycling between, so I'm going to turn off the burner and then immediately set my air to low air. So we're really trying to create an environment where 385 is always 385, or at least starting off a roast, it's always 385. Okay. We're at 390, just coming down a few degrees. Checking my notes just to make sure. 386, 385. All right, I'm just gonna double check my airflow. So my airflow is low, which is 35 on this machine. I did charge at 385, so that's good. So I'm just gonna make a mark that I follow my plan. Okay, so my next move is 1 minute. I'm gonna hit my ignition switch, and then I'm gonna reconcile my gas pressure to make sure it's 2 kPa. Then at that point, we're pretty much good to go. Probably around 3:30, I'm gonna start to look at rate of rise calculations and also look at color change occurring in the sight glass to see if we're gonna be on track for our 5:30 green to yellow transition. Okay, we're coming up on 1 minute. So 1 minute, I'm just gonna hit the ignition. All right, I'll verify that everything's good. Excellent, very good. Okay. Everything's mixing quite well. So in 5 minutes, 5:30 is my goal, is when I wanna see green to yellow. So alongside that line on my profile plan, I put 3:30 there, as that'll help guide me as I'm starting to look at degrees, rate of rise, things of that sort, like how far am I from my goal. All right, now I'm starting to see my rate of rise show up. We're at 230 or 226, so we're just starting to get to that point where you can actually see what's happening with your profile a little bit. And right now it's showing right around 515, if I had to guess, a 515 green to yellow transition. So that's probably pretty accurate. So here we're coming up on 4 minutes. We're still holding that 20 ROR, so that's pretty solid. That's probably about what we're gonna hold for a bit. Okay, now 4 minutes, 303, 20 ROR. So that means at 5 minutes, we're gonna be at 323, and then at 5:15, which is what I was saying earlier, that's about 3:30, which is our green to yellow. So looking like we're on track. We might get there a little early, to be honest. But I don't know if I told you all, at 5 minutes, I'm lowering my gas to 1.4. So pre-green to yellow, I'm lowering my gas, and that's to gain control over my mid-phase. You know, I want my mid-phase to be pretty long. It's a five-minute mid-phase. And so I need to make those adjustments pre-mid-phase to have it really affect the mid-phase. So that's where my logic goes there. Okay, now we're coming up on 5 minutes. So now I'm starting to get to the point where it's a little too late to make an adjustment. Coffee is looking about 45 seconds from green to yellow transition. So we're gonna hold. We're gonna hold out. At 5 though, we're gonna make our adjustment. So 5 minutes, I'm gonna do 45 air, which is my medium air, and 1.4 gas. And we're coming right up on that. And then I'm gonna go to the sight glass and we're gonna make our call on green to yellow transition. And I'm seeing my ET go up too. So that's telling me that we're gaining momentum. Okay, check. I'm just gonna make sure I note that. And now we're gonna call green to yellow. 3:30 there, so we're already there on the probe. Let's see where we are here. Oh, we're close, very, very close. I'm gonna call that right there. 517. Okay, 517, and now we're down to an 18 ROR. So 517 was our dry end, so 13 seconds early. All right, that's cool. It's still almost 40 seconds, 40-some seconds more than the first roast, so I like it. Okay, and where are we now? We're in an 18 ROR. 18 ROR, so let's do another little bit of math. We're probably about 60 degrees from our crack. 18 ROR is going to be about 4 minutes, roughly, a little less. We'll probably lose some temp, though. 4 minutes would take us to, we're at 10 minutes. All right, a little early. That makes sense, because a little early to one marker, usually you're going to be a little bit earlier to the next marker, and then you're usually going to be a little bit earlier even yet. Now we're losing some ROR. Now we're down to 16 ROR. That's it. So now we're going to ride it. So that was my 1.4 adjustment. Now it's starting to show itself. We're losing some speed. I don't want to lose too much speed, though. 15 ROR right now, but this is kind of what I was talking about with running it down, so when we hit crack, we have less momentum. You know what I mean? So I might let this go a little lower than I normally would. Then again, we also hit crack or hit green to yellow early. I'm forgetting about that. So now we want to move our times up. So now we want to see first, not at 10:30, but 13 seconds early. So then that would be 10:17. Then that would move up my airflow adjustment too to 943. 943, yep, 943. Cool, so at 943, I'm going with my high air, and then roughly we'll be right on track with a 1017 first. So, all right, 830, so we're about a minute. 943 is our airflow increase. This feels good to me right now. My roaster gut's getting a little freaked out, but my roaster brain doing the math is happy with everything. So Okay, 910. I am seeing it creep up now. We're going down. This is weird, but I just did a 1 kPa adjustment at 915. I'm writing that in because I saw us gain 1 degree of ROR. Not a big deal, but enough to where I'm knowing it's building more momentum, and I don't want it to build that momentum. I want it to kind of stay consistent. I don't want this to become a runaway train, which is kind of the way I was taught on naturals roast. So now we're coming up on our number. I'm going to do my airflow increase a little early. So 936, I did the 52. I'm going to write that down. My 52 air, which could bring us, hopefully is going to drag out crack a little bit, but it could also bring crack a little quicker. So now we're at 14 ROR. We're hovering between that 14, 13 ROR, which is pretty ideal. I'm not hearing cracks yet. There's just a few outliers happening, and I am seeing the ROR line start to dip a little bit down. As the humidity gets released or the moisture starts to get released, we're going to see the ROR dip a little bit. But then it's going to pick back up in a few more seconds. Okay, we're getting closer. Oh, now it's kicking off. All right, we're going to call that right there. 10:15. So 10:15 crack. So we're pretty much right on track. And I don't know if it was 404. I think it was 405 there. So that makes some sense. 10:15, and I'm going to write 405 too, because I'm tracking the degrees I move in the minutes of my development. And now we're at 10 ROR. So I think we were at 11 ROR at crack. I'm going to write that down because that's helpful for me to stay on track when I do this profile again. Okay, so now we're looking at 11:15 is the 1 minute mark, and that's where I'll lower my gas to half a kPa, and then that means 12. So we're looking at exactly 12. Cool. 11:15, we're coming up on 11:15 right now. We're at an 8 ROR, and I see that ROR line kind of holding. You know, so this is where we're going to hold. This is exactly what I was going for. 11:15, we're at 411. Awesome. So normally I would be at around 415. 414, 415 right now, so that's great. We're a couple of degrees below, so we're probably going to drop this, what we wanted, 2 degrees below what the last profiles were. Okay, now we're 11:30, 413, so we roughly have, we're looking really good. 30 more seconds, we're at 7 ROR. It's beautiful. This is a beautiful pro. I'm loving it. I might even turn off the fuel right now. 11:45, 0 fuel. I'm going to make a note there. And we're at 12, 415 is excellent. We're going to let it go a little longer, though, because we are going to do our time. We're going to do our due diligence right there, and that's it. So 12 to 415. I think it was like 415 something else on the dot. Good. All right, I'm going to close the cooling tray door. All right, I like it, for sure. So now, in the past 2 roasts, I went a couple degrees darker. 3 degrees darker, actually. So this is more than 2 degrees lighter, 3 degrees lighter. And I'm definitely noticing that in the physical look of the coffee. Those other 2 roasts had a much more homogenized color. It was very even color. This one is there's a little bit of subtle modeling. And that tells me that it's lighter. Light roasts are always going to have a little modeling. You know, this is a pretty light level of caramelization. So there is going to be the density and the exterior sugars. They will show a subtle difference in color. What I'm saying is, seeing that makes me happy because I wanted this to be a lighter roast. I wanted there to be a little wrinkliness and a little modeling in the tray, so it's like it looks more like a light roast. The reason being is this is an anaerobic natural Colombia. That's why it looks medium when it tastes light. So I wanted it to look light and taste light. So that's the goal here. And I think I did it. I mean, proof will be in the pudding. We'll let this rest for, 24 hours, 48 hours, and then I'll cup it. Thank you all for sticking into another roast along. This is the natural Colombia Manos Juntas anaerobic profile. And I think it should be a winner, so cheers. See you later.